It's Thursday, June 29th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we end up with a continuation to up green day that opened up near the midpoint of the prior day, held the midpoint of the prior day, moved up and closed near the highs of the day with a nice green bar, kind of the third day in a row. So two things stand out here. First of all, even though you look at this bar and you think this was an easy day of trading, in a second I'll get to the choppy nature of today, working our way up. And the reason it's still continuing to work its way up through the chop is because we just missed reaching our target, which is still expected. We have been talking all week and really since last week about the potential failure of the inside bar to the downside. Once it started up again above the open of the week and got to the midway point of this week, we expect those highs to be taken out. And if you look at it here, we just missed it. So we're still anticipating with one day to go to take out that high. And you can see here, this is the high, and this was, we're very close to it right here. We just missed it. So, that's why the bias is all day to the upside. Now, in terms of the actual trading, first of all, you had a nice, start. You had a pre-market range between the blue lines, and then you had a kind of a green start back up, but then you paused on bar 2. So there was really a pause, a buy here on bar number 3 on that breakout, and you can see that ended up being, it was a neutral bar, then it tried to go up again, and then it kind of failed. It was an inside bar, so it didn't really come up and take out that high and fail. It just sort of is consolidating. I actually bought calls in here, not on that first, the third bar, when it was breaking out. I was already short NVIDIA, some stocks were weak. I just wanted to really make sure. So once I saw this bar kind of hold, and then this fourth bar started going, I bought some calls in here. Now, I shot a video that I ended up, after watching this kind of 2 down take place, or the inside bar break to the downside, I decided to take a small loss and continue to watch it, knowing I can always re-enter. And I happened to re-enter back here on this green bar, and that was my nice morning trade of the day, all the way up to the pre-market highs. And I actually bought twice as many options as that first trade, so it ended up being a nice overall win, even though I had to kind of do it in 2 pieces. Now the thing is, if you bought it here and really wanted to follow, the kind of the methodology perfectly, then you would have been holding on to this, because we really held the midpoint of the first bar, and that's kind of what I'm generally looking at. And you can see nothing here really ended up strongly red to start looking like we were heading lower, and eventually we moved up. And I was talking about how choppy it was on this day, and then what happened was, you reach your target, which is the pre-market highs, which I kind of talked about, and you do have that final target, up in here that you just missed. And what happened was, this shows you the algorithmic nature of trading. Price takes that out and then immediately comes down. And what does it do? It sets up another liquidity kind of run right here. Anyone who was buying and trailing with stops, number one, you might have had stops down at these bars. That took that out. Then once it starts up again, you put stops below this bar, and the market decides to come down, take those out, and then boom, we come all the way back up, because our bigger picture target is still to the upside. So if you look kind of on a 1-minute chart at the whole thing, you see kind of the broadening action, along the way, where you're making in the very short term, higher highs, you make lower lows, but you continue along, ultimately along the path towards the higher time frame targets. So again, not surprising once you reach your first target here on the 15-minute chart that you end up pausing, and then in this case getting more choppiness. But there was no need, and I'm not saying you could trade this comfortably, but you kind of know what's going on relative to the fact that you didn't reach your target. There's still no reason to be biased to the downside on this type of day. Given all, you're above the midpoint of the prior day, you still have a target up there, nothing really changed. So to see all this choppiness here is not surprising. And maybe some people trade it where they buy, the broadening action on the downside on a shorter time frame, knowing the higher time frame is going to eventually, push it up. But anyway, my trading is more in the morning directionally. Here were the 2 pushes up, and you had a good trade on the SPY. So anyway, we now come to the final day of the week. we still expect. Now I could see it just taking out this area, and for the fourth day in a row, and we're in choppy environment, maybe you fail tomorrow after reaching that target. We'll see how it ends up here at the end of the week tomorrow. Also, that's going to be the end of a month. We're going to get into that on the weekend video, what that all means. It looks like we're going to end up with a kind of a green month. So we should kind of test higher sometime into July, but that doesn't mean you can't go down first as long as you hold the midway point of that bar. And then maybe you'll go up. Maybe you'll go up to start July, and within 1 or 2 days you start failing and we come all the way back. A whole bunch of things. It's also a 6-month kind of new time frame that's starting, a new quarterly time frame. So it's a whole important, July 1st is a pretty important day in terms of where things begin to go. But we'll get into that later. For now, clear, upside day, given just the nature of staying above the midpoint of the prior day with targets above, and not a bad, there were bunch of opportunities here to kind of play that, at least for the morning trade, to the upside, whether you did it in one wave and held on through that, or whether you kind of, if you didn't even take this trade, then you had a good secondary trade here to try. That gave you a gain in the morning. So all kinds of ways to the upside. And to me, I even took a small loss and then eventually took a gain. So, that was another way to play it if you were really going to be conservative about it. So see what happens tomorrow. We should test a little higher, but who knows how this week's gonna. Now we're getting to a point, since we're kind of right at the target, where kind of all bets are off. Really, yeah, we might have a strong green day and continue much higher towards this area. I don't know if we're gonna reach our target. That's all you could expect, and then from there, there's no, actionable signal, so to speak, and we already have a little exhaustion risk on the upside, even though we're moving slowly up there. That's, always, so, there's always the possibility of a reversal at any time when you have exhaustion risk and you're broadening out on a certain time frame. So we're gonna have to see what happens. I'm not saying tomorrow is going to be, I'm not expecting necessarily an easy day of trading. This week was kind of the easy week, these 3 days here to go to the upside, and we'll just have to see what happens to end the week and the month tomorrow.